Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So everyone please raise your hands up in the air and let's call out loudly for the mercy of Shri Shri Radha Golokananda. Hare Hare Krishna. Thank you again everyone for joining us this evening. And we would like to welcome our special guests for today. Actually, Domi met them yesterday on book distribution. And yesterday, whole evening, she was just talking of how such a sweet couple and she was so happy to meet you both. So could you please say your names? And we would like to welcome you both. Charlie? Charlie and? Donna. Okay, so let's welcome Charlie and Donna. They are here for the first time. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And Domi was just so happy to tell about you and how such a sweet couple you are. So we are very, very grateful to have your presence today. So our schedule now is we are going to have a class by our spiritual leader, His Holiness bkgoswami Maharaj. He's the one who actually established this entire center in 1985, and he's a direct disciple of our founder, Srila Prabhupada. You know, Divine Guru Srila Prabhupada. So we'll have a class by him. He's going to talk about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, of Bhakti Yoga. And after the class, we'll have dinner, a wonderful spiritual food dinner for everyone. Okay. Also, would like to announce that today is the birthday of Satyavat Prabhu, and Hariva! And we would like to thank Prabhu for his decades of service to Sri Sri Radha Golokananda. Hariva! Okay, so thank you all so much. So devotees, kindly you can move forward for the class, and we'll have class by His Holiness bkgoswami Goswami Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, I would like to get the blessing from Maharaj first, and then I will be pay obeisance to the all first class Vaishnava of the Hillsborough community.
Today is Satyavat Prabhu's birthday, Maharaj. Haribo! His Grace Satyavat Prabhu ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
You sure you turned it? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, it's off. Yeah. Let me just. Hare Krishna. Maybe you could turn the volume a little higher in there. Just my microphone volume is like bkgoswami, the dial right over there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Maybe the general volume a little higher. Hare Krishna, Krishna. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay, that's good. Don't want to be too loud. So today is actually a very special day in addition to Satyavrat's birthday, which is going to be in the International Vaishnav calendar soon. It's Ananta Chaturdasi, and if that doesn't make sense to any of you, Chaturdasi means like the 14th day of the moon, but it's the day in which a great devotee left this world, and that great devotee's name was Haridasa Thakura. So tonight we're actually going to speak a little bit about him and his pastimes and his leaving this world, how he left this world in a very unique fashion, and his teachings, which are extremely important. So first we're going to chant this prayer by Haridasa Thakura called, what's that?
Can I put it on the screen?
Yeah, sure. Called Saparshada Viraha Vilapa, which is sometimes known as Ye Anilo Primadana Korana Prachur. Can you get it pretty quickly on the screen?
He's asking
I can type the password. We don't want to give everyone away. Why don't you type? You know the password, right? Okay. I don't want to give our secret passwords away. Actually, the password hint is there. Did it go on? No. Okay. What? What's that? Okay. Password. Whoops. The capital is not on. Cap lock is on. Anyway.
It's okay, man. Maybe you can pass out the song books.
He must have changed the password on this. Yeah. Administrator would be his password. Not.
That's fine. We'll
just give you one more try. Nope. Okay. Sorry about that. You can text Jagat and ask him. But by that time, we'll be finished with it. Jenny! Anyway, those who know can respond, and those who don't know can listen. So. Ye antilo prema janna corona prachu Hey no Prabhu Kotakena Acharya Thakur Amara Svarupa Gasanatan Kakatasa Raghunath Patita Brahman Kahamura Bhatta Yuga Kakavirahat Ekakale Kotakena Koranatara Pashane Kutibo Mata Annale Vasebo Goranga Go Nerane kota kele papo. Se sava sangira sange ye koino vigilas. Se sangana Paya Kande Nadatamo Nas Yehane Lo Prema Dana Corona Prachur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Vaishnav Thakur Jaya Haridasa Thakura 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya Osatara Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Savaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridasa Thakura Ki Jai Paramaseka Ho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuradam Ki Jai Jagadada Sami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nivashesha Shinyavadi Paschatati Jatarni. I'll just read this translation here of the poem that we just sang. He who brought the treasure of divine love and was filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality as Srinivasa Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? Where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottama Das simply weeps. So one may question, Om Ganat Timranda Shah Gananjana Shilakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmaya Shigurve Namaha. So one may question why we are celebrating a disappearance day of someone. You know, in the West it's called a funeral or whatever. We are celebrating because we are dealing with a great personality. And when we're talking about great personalities who are liberated souls that come into this material world, their coming and going is spiritual or transcendental. Just like when a great personality gets on an airplane, he comes somewhere, and he gets on an airplane, goes somewhere else, but he's going to do the same thing wherever he goes. Whereas an ordinary person, when he gets on the airplane, well, takes birth, let's say. Let's continue this metaphor. So he takes birth, but when he leaves, he's not going to be doing the same thing in his next life. He may be doing something completely different. As Krishna says in the Gita, yam yam vapi smaran bhavan yajatayante kalevaram. Tam tam avaiti kuntiya siddha tad bhavata. That depending on what he's thinking about, he may be in a completely different situation. He may become a cat or a dog or a president of the United States, God forbid. So anyway, he may become any one of those things, because you're not born in that particular way. So, but we're dealing with a great devotee, and Haridasa Thakura is a great devotee. Now, one really important lesson we learned from the activities of Haridasa Thakura is that his being what we call the namacharya, or the main teacher of Krishna's holy names, or the chanting of Krishna's holy names, really destroys all sorts of, the concept destroys all sorts of sectarian religion, casteism, and differentiation between different races and nationalities and everything like that. In many, many ways, his activities, teach this particular aspect of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. As Lord Chaitanya would say, kiva vipra kiva nyasi shuddha kenanai, ye Krishna tattvaveta se guru hey. Hi. It doesn't really matter what someone's background is, what someone's gender is, what someone's race is. It's, these things are all just like what type of car someone's driving. Let's say a great saint comes here driving in an old Volkswagen. Would we say, you can't come in the temple because you're driving in an old Volkswagen? That'd be kind of silly, isn't it? We just make sure everyone has a Tesla when they come to the to the temple. Check the car, it can't be over 10 years old. Maybe we should do that. No, obviously we don't do that. We don't judge someone according to their car. Hopefully we don't. That would be really bad. So we don't judge someone according to their bodies, because the person's not the body. It's like clothes. Sometimes some of the richest, best people in the world wear old clothes. Like, for example, when I go on my exercise here, I exercise every day, I wear cutoffs. And someone's thinking, it must be a poor guy walking down the street. But I'm still the same person. So Haridasa Thakura was born in a family that, according to ritualistic procedures at that time in Hinduism, and I'll make it very clear, we're not Hindus here, we're Vaishnavas, and we follow Sanatana Dharma. The word Hindu is a geographical designation that was imposed by foreigners upon people who lived in India. But we follow Sanatana Dharma. We follow the Vedic literatures, and we follow eternal religious principles in the Vedic literatures, and we accept eternal religious principles when they are coming from any culture. In other words, it's not sectarian. We're not thinking that we are better than anyone else, or Hare Krishna is better than a Christian, or Hare Krishna is better than a Muslim, or Hare Krishna is better than Zoroastrianism. We're just seeing essential religious principles, in any religion or any philosophy that teaches essential religious principles, we think is wonderful. Because the essential religious principle in this day and age is what? Chanting God's name. in whatever culture you happen to be in. Of course, we have the name Krishna. Krishna means most attractive. Well, sometimes people come up to me and they say, I don't think Krishna's God. Well, I say the word Krishna means, Krish means to attract, Na means to give you bliss. So you don't think God is beautiful? You think he's pretty ugly? That's your problem. So, it's a non-denominational word. But if someone wants to call God Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, any of these names, that's fine. As long as you call him. You understand? Just like someone who has many different phone numbers, right? I only have one phone number. But someone who has many different phone numbers. But you can actually call me on WhatsApp. You can call me on Messenger. You can call me on regular phone. You can call me on Viber. Sorry. Probably don't know what that is. You can call me, how else? What? Skype? No, I don't do that anymore. That's Zoom, you can't call people on. So you can call me on any, but I'm the same person. But I may have a different name in each place. You know, Skype, who knows what my name is there. You know, some places it may be bkgoswami, in other places be Krishna Goswami, in other cases it may be my legal name or whatever. But it's always the same person. So the thing is, call me. No, don't call me. Please. I'm a little too busy for that. So, but call God, he's not too busy. He never turns his ringer off like I do. You understand? People complain, I turn my ringer off because I'd be driven crazy. But God is unlimited, he's not driven crazy like us. So anyway, the essence of religion is to call out for God, in any religion to follow what God says. That's it. Simple. Few simple restrictions, like the Bible, you have the 10 Commandments. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, do that. So, this is what Haridasa Thakura is showing us by his activities. Now, he appeared in a culture that was highly stratified, highly ritualistic, highly racist. Really, that's the culture he appeared in. I mean, in many ways, not only racist, but it was, discriminating against people of different religion, different country. And we see remnants of this type of discrimination even today in India. For example, if I go to Jagannath Puri and I try to go in the temple, they'll say, no, you can't come in. One time I tried to bribe my way in the temple, which usually is a good idea in India. I said, how much would it cost to go in the temple? And they said, give me the money first. And I said, no. Let me in first. And, whatever. Hopefully you take credit cards. So, even today there's that remnant. So you have this caste system where certain people, even within the realm of Hinduism, are considered, let's say, untouchables, or as they say now in a more polite term, scheduled castes. That's even within Hinduism. You have that. So this is something that Haridasa Thakura and Lord Chaitanya's acceptance of Haridasa Thakura is meant to destroy this. And what to speak of how people in the rigid caste conscious society would see people of another religion. It's even worse. I'll give you an example. Even you have Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami who were born in a, quote, Hindu society, and they actually were born in a very high class, what they call Brahmin family, not in a low class family. I mean, all families, in my mind, all families are neither high class nor low class. It's what you make out of it. You understand? Not the family. It's what you make out of what you're given. Just like you get a piece of clay can become something nice, or just like a stone or something like that. So anyway, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were born in Brahminical families, Saraswata Brahmanic families. But because they had taken up the wrong occupation, they were ostracized from this caste-conscious society. And they themselves did not even go in the Jagannath temple. Amazing, isn't it? How hierarchical, how crazy, how racist, how horrible society. And Krishna consciousness is the opposite of that. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmana ivanabhashati sarva bhutesha chatmanam tatogna bkgoswami. They're all living entities. They're our brothers and sisters. I mean, this is one of the things that attracted me in the beginning to Krishna consciousness, that here's the peace formula. The peace formula, we're all brothers and sisters. We're not Americans, we're not Russians, we're not this, we're not that, black or white or Chinese. Brothers and sisters. This is the point. So Haridasa Thakura, getting to Haridasa Thakura, let's talk about him. So Haridasa Thakura was born in a Muslim family, which at that particular time was considered in Hindu society an anathema. I mean, that's same as today, actually. You find so much discrimination. Even sometimes it's legalized in law. And so he was a great devotee, but the Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, arranged for him to be born in such a family because the Lord Chaitanya, decided to give him the highest post. And the highest post was the teacher of the holy name and the chanting of the holy name, which is actually the Yuga Dharma, the most important activity that we have. We have other activities too. We do deity worship, we eat prasadam. I know you think that's more important than chanting, but I'm sorry about that. It doesn't say Hari Prasadam, Hari Prasadam, Hari Prasadam, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nisteva, 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 Gatiranyata. That's not a verse. I just made that up. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way than eating prasadam. I mean, it's okay, but that's not our Yuga Dharma. So he gave him the highest position, the highest teaching position. And he was chanting more than anybody else. He was chanting 300,000 names of Krishna a day. That's approximately, not quite, 192 rounds a day. Or 3 lakhs for those of you from India, just so you know what we're talking about. 3 lakhs of names a day. So that's amazing. And he was respected by the greatest devotees. Even before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his pastimes, we had Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya is also an incarnation of God. God has many incarnations, as we many times described, Advaita Chuta Nadi Ananta Rupam, etc., from the Brahma Samhita, which means that God appears simultaneously in different guises, in different places. The Bible also says the same thing. In sundry places, sundry times, the Bible says that God appears. And because he's unlimited, he can do it all simultaneously. So here's Advaita Acharya, very, very high-class Brahmin. And he respected Haridasa Thakura so much, this is before Lord Chaitanya came, that he gave Haridasa Thakura the honor of receiving the Shraddha plate. Or those of you who speak Hindi, Shrud. I know in Fiji they get say, Shraddha, what is that? They said, Shrud. So I have to translate Sanskrit into Hindi for you all. So, because that's given to the best of the Brahmanas. I've been to many Shraddha ceremonies, and, they invite me because I guess I'm the best of the Brahmanas, but whatever. Sannyasi. And I've been to a lot of, in South Indian Shraddha ceremonies where they do the whole thing. It's a whole big ritual. Change the Brahmin threads from one side to the other, and then this and that, and then finally they feed you sweet rice, anaprasana. That's just a joke. But anyway, they feed you sweet rice, and you do this to the most respectable personality. But here was Advaita Acharya this great high-class Brahmin, highly respected, who was respecting Haridasa Thakura even more. So this is part of Haridasa Thakura's, let's say, mission. So, anyway, but many people didn't appreciate it. I'm going to tell some stories about that. Once upon a time, there was a Hindu, a landowner. His name was Ramchandra Khan. Forgive me if any of you have that last name. But anyway, Ramchandra Khan, he was very envious. He was Zamindar. And he was thinking, that why do they have this person who was born in a different religion? And everyone's respecting him. I have to do something so that he's brought down to earth. So he's disrespected. So he thought, how can I ruin this person's reputation? Because Haridasa Thakura was chanting and everybody was really respecting him. He's a great saint. So Ramchandra Khan had an idea. He called, for all the prostitutes, not all of them, the best ones, if you can use the word best. Anyway, so he called for all, and he said, I want one of you to lure Haridasa Thakura and cause him to deviate, and I'm going to be there with some of my guards, constables, and we will catch him in the act. And his reputation will be finished. So he called for this group, and then one of them said, I can do it. Don't worry. Within 3 days, nobody can withstand my beauty. So anyway, so she went there, and Haridasa Thakura was sitting in a lonely place, in Benopala actually, and he was chanting this japa, Hare Krishna, like this. And one thing about chanting Hare Krishna is the names of Krishna are non-different from Krishna. So when you're chanting Hare Krishna, you're experiencing, really with attention, you're experiencing extreme ecstasy, extreme bliss. So it wasn't just like dry repetition. Like if I ask you to chant, let's say, even your child's name over and over again. What's your son's name? Madhav. Oh, that's the name of Krishna. But let's say your son's name was Joe. How do you like that? So, can you imagine Joe, 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 Joe? How are you doing, Joe? So, if you chanting Joe, 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 I mean, it gets you after a while. So Madhav is actually a beautiful name of Krishna, so that's okay. Krishna is non-different from his name, as the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us. So Haridasa Thakura was in ecstasy. He was absorbed, because the name Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, that the name is non-different than Krishna. So he's connected. He's really like in the zone, as they say. Anyone's heard that expression before? In the zone. So he's really connected. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And this lady comes, and she says, hi. You're a young man. Handsome. Sorry if I'm not so good at this. So, and she says, I'm really eager to be with you. And he says, basically, just let me finish my rounds first. And then, all your desires will be fulfilled. He wasn't tricking her, because all of her desires were going to be fulfilled. So all night long, he's chanting, she's just waiting, she's looking at her watch. And the night comes to an end. At the same time, there's a tulsi tree there, and she has culture, at least. She offers obeisances to the tulsi tree in the Haridasa Thakura. I mean, even people who had certain occupations in those days had certain culture to respect saintly persons, to respect the tulsi tree. So, So then Haridasa Thakura said, I apologize. I didn't finish my round. Says, please come back. And so she comes back the second night, same thing, sits there, and offers obeisance to the Tulsi tree, and she hears the holy name from his lips the whole night. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari, Hari Ram, Ram Ram, Hari Hari. And then she begins to imitate a little bit. Hare Krishna, and then he really apologizes after the second night's over. He said, tomorrow I'm going to be able to finish my rounds. Actually, he never finished his rounds. Because when you're chanting 300,000 names a day, you don't finish. So she comes back the third night, and she tells Ramchandra Khan, this guy who's trying to trick Haridasa Thakura, that he promised tonight's the night. So she comes back, and she's chanting, and the holy names penetrate her consciousness. And she goes, oh my God, what am I doing? Here's this great saint. This is wrong. Because by hearing the holy names, as we know, that the creeper or seed of devotion becomes implanted in one's heart when one hears the names of God. And then she apologizes. She bows down and says, apologize. I was sent here to trick you. And Haridasa Thakura says, I know that. And I stayed here just to help you. This is the vision or the dedication of someone who's actually a real spiritualist. Even if someone comes to kill him, then he still maintains his compassion. I'll tell another story about this in a second. So anyway, so she bows down. Haridasa Thakura gives her initiation on the spot and says, sit down here in front of this Tulsi tree and just chant Hare Krishna and everything will be all right. So she gives away all of her possessions and ends up with a Sika. Anyway. And she sits down in front of the Tulsi plant and chants and chants and chants. And she's in complete ecstasy. And people start to respect her and bring her everything. And she has no worries at all about life. But this Ramchandra Khan, he is incensed. That doesn't mean incense. That means he's angry. But because he's committed an offense against this great devotee, what happens is his whole village gets decimated. Because when one commits an offense against a great spiritualist, not only do you get kicked, or the stick, or whatever, but then anyone associated with you gets it, and then he loses everything because of that. It's unfortunate like that. And Haridasa Thakura got tested in other ways. Of course, this for him, it wasn't really a test because he's absorbed in Krishna. You can say, if I was put in such a situation, or you were, it would be a test, right? But here was even a heavier test that he was put through. And this wasn't on behalf of the Hindus. This is on behalf of the religion that he was born into. He was born into the Muslim religion. They didn't understand the essential, eternal aspects of religion that are common denominators for every religion, which is love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and all thy might. I remember that's how I was brought up. That's a Judeo-Christian chant. If you've been to church or to temple or whatever. That's the essence of religion. Love God. Love God, and as a result, you also love everybody else who's connected to God. That's the test of love of God. If you hate people, you don't love God. That's what Jesus said. He who hates the lowest hates me. You understand? So it's really important. So here are the people on the other side. The religion Haridasa Thakura was born in, to his Muslim religion, which is nice because they chant the names of Allah, which is wonderful. But they didn't understand. They were very sectarian. And so what did they do? The Nawab, who is the religious leader and also the secular leader, that's a problem with a theocracy. A theocracy is when you have the religious leader in charge of the government, it's problematic. That's not a spiritual arrangement, because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and you don't want someone who's a spiritualist being president, or you want them to be spiritual, but you don't want them to be the head spiritualist. So this particular guy, he said to Haridasa Thakura, "Stop this chanting. You know, you were born up in a certain family, so, you know, do what your forefathers did." And actually, what he didn't understand was that actually the forefathers of India, of people who were Muslims in India, were actually Hindus before. But anyway, forcible conversion. But we're not talking about conversion, because you can't convert from one thing to another. You are whoever you are. That means you're a spirit soul. I was listening to a class that Prabhupada was giving. I was listening to a class this morning. And Prabhupada said, we're talking about science here. We're not talking about religion. And Prabhupada said, look, it doesn't matter whether you're a Hindu or Muslim, whatever. Once you were a little baby, now you have an older body, and then you'll have an old man's body. And then the man who Prabhupada was speaking to said, that's religion. And Prabhupada said, no, how can that be religion? That's pretty amazing. Someone would think it's religion, you get old. You change bodies. It's not religion. I can show you my baby pictures and prove it. You know, once upon a time there was a cute little baby, and now there's a wrinkled old man. So, isn't that cute? Anyway, so the point, the point is that, so anyway, get back to the king here, or the Nawab. He said to Haridasa Thakura, give up what you're doing. And Haridasa Thakura said, no, I will never give it up. Not in a puffed up way. No, I'm just dedicated in a very humble way. And the Nawab said to his constables, you just beat it out of him. You just keep whipping him until he agrees to give it up or die. And so these gentlemen were whipping Haridasa Thakura, and they were marching him through the marketplace, just to set an example for others. You know, it's mentioned 22 marketplaces, so others would see. You want to set an example. Just like sometimes you have, in certain countries, you have public stoning. You've heard about this before? Or whipping, public whipping, to set an example, to scare others. That's not the way to impose a standard of morality on people. Or you may have morality police. I don't like the way you're dressed, you know. Cover your hair. Or we go around with the brahmacharis, shave your head. You know, so it's morality police. But you know, people do have to come to God voluntarily. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives instructions to Arjuna, but at the end he says, what do you want to do? And he gives Arjuna the option. Listen to me or not listen to me. And he doesn't say to Arjuna at the end, if you don't listen to me, you're not my friend anymore. I'm going to find another friend. He doesn't say that to Arjuna. And Arjuna knows that Krishna's love is unconditional, regardless of what Arjuna chooses to do, right? That's the kind of love we got from God. It's unconditional. He loves us even if we're the biggest rascals in the world. He still loves us, even if he has to chastise us a little, take a few things away from us. But that's for our benefit. So anyway, so these gentlemen are whipping Haridasa Thakura in 22 marketplaces. And he keeps chanting, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. And the people whipping him are just like, what's happening? You know, I don't know if you've ever been whipped. I haven't. But it's pretty hard. You know, you see people getting whipped sometimes, lashes on their back. So in 22, you know, in other words, again and again and again. And he is just chanting and happy as a lark. And they guards are actually getting really worried because they're going to get in trouble. Because the Nawab is going to think that they didn't do their job. So Haridasa Thakura, he's praying for the welfare of the people who are beating him. It's like in Christianity, Jesus Christ says, "Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they do." So he's praying for them. Because later on it was revealed by Lord Chaitanya that when Haridasa Thakura was being beaten by these people, Lord Chaitanya was getting ready to kill them with his spiritual potency of Sudarshan Chakra or something. But he said, because you were praying for them, I couldn't kill them. Imagine that. So here, he's praying for the people. So, all right, so they're getting worried. He's not dying. We're going to get in trouble. What are we going to do? So he understands that. He asks them, what's your problem? And they say, you're supposed to die. And he says, no problem. And then being absorbed in the holy names and going deep into samadhi meditation, he actually withdraws his life airs, I guess, from the body temporarily. Just keeps the body in a sort of state of suspended animation, like yogis do. Like even, this is not something so amazing. Prabhupada even said that frogs are yogis. Why did he say that? Does anyone know? Because in the winter they can go under the water in the mud and stay there all winter. And, the things thaw out and out they come and they have their little babies. Because they're not such good yogis because they're not celibate. But anyway, that's another question. That's another question. They have little tadpoles. So anyway, devotees have all these yogic powers. Pure devotees have all these yogic powers. So he makes himself completely unconscious, and they think he's dead. They take him to the Nawab, the king, and they say, he's dead, what should we do? The Nawab says, well, actually, we're not going to burn the body because that way he'll go to heaven. That's another ritual the Hindus have. And so therefore, we're just going to chuck the body in the Ganges. So they just take the body, 1, 2, 3, throw it in the Ganges, and he floats downstream, and after a while he comes out of his mystic trance and walks away. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Pretty good. And then then everybody pays him respects and apologizes. So that's a good thing to do if after you punish someone. Just like I do that after I punish my disciples and they walk away. No, not really. So you find he was subject to that sort of discrimination. Amazing. From both sides, from all different sides, he was subjected to that discrimination. Yet he was the most powerful preacher of Krishna's holy name. He was able to actually interact with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and have discussions about the holy name. Lord Chaitanya asked him the philosophy of the holy name. How can we save everybody? And he describes simply by the chanting of Hare Krishna, even Namabash, accidental chanting, even the inert, inactive living entities like trees and things like that become benefited by the chanting of the Lord's holy name. So this is the greatness of Haridasa Thakura. Actually, I have a lot of other stories I could tell, but we don't have a lot of time. Just the final story, which I saved for the last, is the story of his passing away. And I'm going to make reference to the Chaitanya Charitamrita in this particular story. I'm not going to read, but I'm going to make reference because I have the verses written down here. So once upon a time, Haridasa Thakura was quite older than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Haridasa Thakura was living in Jagannath Puri at that time, close to where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was living. Lord Chaitanya was living in this place called the Gambhira. Haridasa Thakura did not go in the temple because he respected the social etiquette at that time. Even though he was the greatest devotee, neither did Rupa or Sanatana Goswami go into the temple. But every day, Lord Chaitanya would come out after going to the temple and bring Haridasa Thakura prasadam. And the place where Haridasa Thakura resided is called the Siddha Bakul. There's this beautiful tree there. I'm not sure if the tree is still there. I mean, they sort of broke away a little bit a few years ago. And Haridasa Thakura would be chanting japa near this tree. Haridasa Thakura also hosted Rupa and Sanatana Goswami when they came. So he was very, very dear to Lord Chaitanya. And Haridasa Thakura did not want to see Lord Chaitanya's final pastimes in this world because he loved Lord Chaitanya so much. So he prayed to Krishna that he could leave before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here's the story of Haridasa Thakura's passing, which occurred on this day, so many 500 and something years ago. So what happened is that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent his servant, Govinda, to give Haridasa Thakura some prasadam. And when he came to see Haridasa Thakura, he saw Haridasa Thakura was lying on his back chanting the holy names. I mean, that's quite unusual. And Govinda said, you should get up and take this prasadam. And Haridasa Thakura said, today I am fasting. Why are you fasting? Because I have not finished my rounds. That's really interesting. Dedication, determination like that to carry out his particular service for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And incidentally, Haridasa Thakura is considered an incarnation of Lord Brahma and also empowered by Prahlad Maharaj. So two different personalities. He's manifesting the presence of those two great personalities. So, but still he said, I have to honor prasadam. Someone gives it to me, I have to take a little bit at least. So he took a little bit of the prasadam. So if someone honors you, offers prasadam, you don't have to eat the whole plate. You may want to, but just one little speck is as good spiritually as the whole plate. Although when I was with Prabhupada, I ate the whole plate. So, and the orange rinds and the grapes stems and everything like that. And the plate I would have ate too, but it happened to be metal, so I wasn't like that person who ate a car one time. So, but that was my dedication to Prabhupada. So, the next day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to him and said, are you well? And Haridasa Thakura, being very humble, he said, yes, my body's all right, but my mind and intelligence is not all right. In other words, he was thinking I was having some spiritual difficulty. And Lord Chaitanya said, what's the problem? What's the disease? And he says, my disease is I can't finish my rounds. Now, when you have 192 rounds to chant every day, that's quite understandable. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you're old, you don't need to chant so many rounds. Just reduce the number of rounds that you're chanting. So Haridasa Thakura said, this is actually really what's going on. That you have made me break through these social barriers. I'm paraphrasing what he said. Made me take food that was meant for the first-class brahmanas. And I only have one desire that I'm asking you to fulfill, and that desire is to let me leave this world and not see the final chapter of your activities or your pastimes. I wish to hold your lotus feet. Now, those of you from India know what that means. You hold someone's feet, because the feet of a great saint, or especially God, are considered sacred. Now, why feet? Because that indicates humility. Because when one has the right mood, one will approach someone in a humble way. I mean, in India, traditional India, humility is very much highly esteemed. Like even how you point to someone or you don't point to someone, it can be considered an insult. Like if I was to go like this, which I just did, it's an insult. So everything is just fine. Like you approach people, namaste, I offer respects to you, which everybody is doing now because of COVID. So that's good. So it's a higher class culture. So he said, I want to hold your feet and see your face, and with my tongue chant your holy name as I am leaving this world. Grant me this desire. Let this body fall down before you. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said at that particular juncture, whatever you want, Krishna is going to fulfill your desire. And then Lord Chaitanya said, whatever happiness I have, it is due to your being here. How can you leave? And Haridasa Thakura, showing that he was a very humble devotee, said, I'm an insignificant insect. This is an illusion. If an ant dies, what is the loss for the whole world? It's not that you read in the obituary, one ant died. He said, please fulfill my desires. So the next day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Haridasa Thakura, and he said to Haridasa Thakura, what is the news? And Haridasa Thakura said, whatever mercy you can give me. And Lord Chaitanya had Rakeshwara Pandit, his great dancer, start dancing and chanting. And all the devotees were dancing and chanting. They knew Haridasa Thakura was going to leave his body that particular day. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to describe about the transcendental attributes of Haridasa Thakura. And Haridasa Thakura made Lord Chaitanya sit down before him. He fixed his eyes like bumblebees on the face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, held the feet of Lord Chaitanya right to his heart. You can imagine that. Lord Chaitanya's two lotus feet. He held them to his heart, and tears just like flowed out of his eyes like from a syringe. And he began to chant, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. And in this particular way, he left this world. I mean, it's amazing. It's an amazing departure. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started dancing with Haridasa Thakura's body. Now, we're talking about Hindu rituals right now. You don't do that. Unless it's a great saint. If someone passed away and they're a great saint, usually they're put on a palanquin and brought before the deities like that. But most cases, before the sun sets the next day, you're supposed to have the cremation. But there was no cremation in this particular case because these great saints are not cremated. They're interred in the ground. The body is interred in the ground. Of course, we understand, yes, the saints and other people are not their bodies. That's true. That is true. But because their bodies are dedicated to Krishna, their bodies are spiritualized. That's a very important point. Just like any place where a great saint lived, or paraphernalia, you see in Vrindavan, Prabhupada's paraphernalia is saved. Like this is all very spiritual. So then Lord Chaitanya danced with the body, and he bathed Haridasa Thakura's body in the sea, and he said, from this point on, this sea is a great pilgrimage place. And he had everybody drink the water from the sea that had touched the body of Haridasa Thakura, and he dug personally, with his devotees, dug a hole in the sand and placed Haridasa Thakura's body on it and covered the body with the silken rope, sandalwood pulp, and other remnants of Lord Jagannath like that. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a very big Sankirtan performance, chanting the Lord's holy name, circumambulating it, and started to beg prasadam from the storekeepers of the Jagannath temple to celebrate the passing away of Haridasa Thakura. And many of the shopkeepers actually gave the prasadam for free, obviously. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made everybody eat a feast, and he gave everybody so much that 5 people could eat what was on their plates. And he made them eat it. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started to distribute the prasadam himself, but the other devotees made him sit down and take prasadam. And every room was filled up to the neck, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is how you celebrate, at least when you're young. I can't do that now. And Lord Chaitanya was saying, give them more, give them more, give them more prasadam, even when they filled up to the neck. Prabhupada used to do that in the beginning days of the movement. He would I remember there's some people eating 25 japanis in one sitting. Can you imagine that? And Prabhupada just kept feeding them and cooking for them and purifying them in that particular way. One of the things I learned when I joined the Krishna conscious movement was prasadam purifies you. Of course, we became more purified because it was filled with hot peppers and things like that. That was very purified in many different ways. But, it felt like that. In with the good, out with the bad. In with the good, out with the bad. That was our philosophy. And so it's a fact. So this is the way Vaishnavas celebrate the festivals, by taking a lot of prasadam when you're young. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu compared Haridasa Thakura with Bhishma, the great personality Bhishma, who left this world, had a benediction to leave this world when he wanted to leave this world, at the end, of course, of the Battle of Kurukshetra, when the Pandavas had actually taken over the kingdom. And Lord Chaitanya at the end said, "All glories to Haridasa Thakura, and chant the holy name of the Lord." And that's the victorious passing away of Haridasa Thakura, and some of the lessons we can learn from, of course, the main lesson is attachment to the holy name. The other lesson is, complete acceptance of everyone and anyone, and not considering race, religion, nationality, gender, anything. This is Krishna consciousness. Anything else, bodily consciousness, is against Krishna consciousness, because these are called upadis. Upadi means your designation, either bodily designation, or how you work, or whether you're rich, or whether you're poor, or whether you're old. These are all different labels that we put on people. And we have to go beyond these labels and see everybody as servants of a servant of a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is Haridasa Thakura, one of the most important lessons we can learn from Haridasa Thakura. So, thank you very much. I think we should end now, because it's time for prasadam, and fill up to the next, and you can make people eat more. So, I think we'll end. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Haridasa Thakura ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So, thank you so much, Maharaj. That was such a wonderful narration of the glories of Srila Haridasa Thakura. Just so touching to hear his wonderful qualities, and so inspiring. So, let's thank Maharaj for the wonderful, wonderful narration on glories of Haridasa Thakura. Haribo! His Holiness bkgoswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki, Namacharya Srila Haridasa Thakura ki. Hare Krishna. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. Is there anyone here who's here for the first time? We didn't get the opportunity to welcome. Yes. Yes, we welcome you before. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. Tomorrow actually is the very, very auspicious day of Bhadra Purnima. So all around the world on this day, this Bhadra Purnima, it is actually said in our scriptures that anyone who actually receives a whole set of Bhagavatam, which is actually non-different from Krishna himself, into his house, will get a ticket back to Goloka Vrindavan. So it's a very, very special day tomorrow. And we are encouraging everyone, if you don't have a set of Bhagavatam, please get a full set of Srimad Bhagavatam. You can take a set today, and tomorrow you can open it and have a wonderful welcoming ceremony in your house. If you already have a set, you can take a set and give it